Well, let's go to news out of the Western Cape now. We all know one of the country's leading exporter of agricultural products, probably the leader in that industry. Good rains have seen a bumper harvest this year, which is increasing revenue, but there's a bit of a problem. The potential of all that exported goods is being compromised by a lack of loading and offloading equipment at ports. So it looks like it's actually a bit of an equipment issue. Let's try and get a sense of what is happening with the ports of Cape Town. Western Cape Finance MEC Mireille Wenger joining us this morning. Mireille, good morning. Good to have you with us on the show, and I appreciate the time. So the crops are there, the fruits are there, the veggies are there. We just can't get them out. What's the problem?
Yes, well, as the Western Cape government, we're very concerned about an impending export crisis. So our exports are ready to go, and we're worried that the Port of Cape Town won't be able to get those products to market. We've seen a number of inefficiencies at the Port of Cape Town, and over the last few months, the performance at the port has just been deteriorating at a time when we needed to be improving to be able to deal with the peak export season, which is heading our way in a few weeks' time.
For those of us who don't know the Port of Cape Town all that well, except for the incredible views, just help me understand the nuts and bolts of this. Where is the bottleneck? What exactly, when you say it hasn't been functioning the way it should be, what do we mean by that? Where's the issue?
So about 55% of South Africa's agricultural exports come from the Western Cape, and the Port of Cape Town is our only containerized port. And most of those agricultural products are containerized, so you can see that the port is critical then to the functioning of our economy. What we've seen is an underinvestment in capital expenditure by the Port of Cape Town over several years. I think their capital expenditure is under 30% over the last 8 years. And so what we're seeing is equipment being old and breaking down, and not enough of the right equipment to deal with things like adverse weather events, because we also know that Cape Town at times can be windy and so on. And so we need more up-to-date equipment and more of it to deal with the volumes. Ideally, we want to see our economy growing. And so a critical piece of being able to do that is a well-functioning port.
So who's supposed to be in charge of this? Is it Western Cape government? Is this a national issue? Is this a Transnet issue? Is it a Ports Authority issue? There's quite a few players involved here. Mireille, so who actually is supposed to be upkeeping this equipment?
So we have the port operator, and Transnet is ultimately responsible as a state-owned enterprise, which then reports into the national government. As the provincial government, we obviously are concerned, and we're playing a key advocacy role because it's so important to the Western Cape economy. But more importantly, it's important to South Africa's economy. So we've been doing whatever we can across the value chain to try and drive efficiencies, whether it be from transporters to exporters and with the port itself. And we've launched a data dashboard to try and track some of the key metrics to see where things are going wrong.
I imagine at some point we're going to bring in the PNP, the public and private part of this discussion as well. Is this a space where the private sector can once again come in? Because you mentioned Transnet, which is, as we know, a very troublesome SOE, and I imagine private partnership could or probably should be involved here?
Absolutely, and we're pushing quite hard for private sector involvement in the Port of Cape Town. We've seen many examples from around the world where deficient ports have been turned around through private-public partnerships. I mean, just look at how well Maputo's port is doing now that the private sector is involved. And given the state and the severity of the inefficiencies, we can only see that the private sector involvement is the way forward to resolve this, and as quickly as possible.
When it comes to the engagements that you've had with all the current stakeholders, let's take private out of it for a moment, Mireille, what has the responses been? Because obviously, I imagine you've raised these issues with these various stakeholders. What has the response been? They know about it, or there's no money, there's no interest, or what's their response been to you?
So we have extensive engagements with the various players involved, from the port operator through to Transnet. I've even written to the National Minister several times about the export crisis. Last year, through these engagements, we saw an improvement in the efficiency in the port and some equipment that was added to the stocks. But this year, we're just seeing it deteriorate at a rapid rate, and it can't continue. So we're really trying to put the pressure on. We're speaking to our national counterparts to make sure that the port can work as efficiently as possible, because when the port works, South Africa's economy works.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to go to next. Let's move away from the nuts and bolts of the issue on the ground. The knock-on effect of this, A, is the fact that you could have produce potentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mireille, could go off. It could expire while it's not being able to get out the port, A. But on the other side, if we become an unreliable exporter of these goods to wherever they're going, I'm guessing Europe and the rest of Africa, we could lose those economic opportunities. That's the real knock-on effect here.
Absolutely, because once you lose market share, it's very hard to gain it back. So once those buyers need to source from elsewhere, it's very hard to get them back again. And it's all about reliability in the system. It's also about sending a signal to the agricultural sector, because fruit takes a long time to grow. And so you have to plan many years in advance. And it makes it very difficult to do if you don't know if you're going to be able to get your products out. The other thing is that the port is key to job creation. We've done some modeling, and our research suggests that about 225,000 people have jobs associated with products that go via the port. So if we can't get products out and we lose market share, we will also lose jobs.
Yeah. Very briefly, Mireille, as I say goodbye to you, final question. What is the timeline now? What happens today to get on top of this? Clearly, we have a case that has to be dealt with as far as no exports. What happens today? Who needs to do what by the end of this week?
So we're developing a port needs and priorities report as our contribution, where we'll be able to share with all the oversight bodies to say we need X number of rubber tire gantries, we need X number of ship-to-shore cranes, and by what date. And we'll be using that as a monitoring tool. I'm also trying to secure a meeting with my national government counterparts, because we have to resolve this within the next few weeks if we're going to be able to take advantage of what is hopefully going to be a bumper export season.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be scuttled potentially by the fact you can't get it out the country, which is very, very sad news for the farms, the jobs on the farms, and that entire value chain as well.